Our plan is that the vaccine must be shipped. It must fit into our cold chain infrastructure. So the initial stages, the vaccines available were AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Pfizer. But then we had other considerations of Novavax, Sputnik V. So what FDA did was that they sent a notice to all of these companies or agencies that as a country we are interested in their vaccine candidates. So as I speak now, there's only two companies, that is the AstraZeneca and then the Sputnik V that has responded. So the FDA did their own review, and then they have given the agency authorization. So basically, that's what we have done, and we are sending reminders to the other agencies, Pfizer and Moderna, that we will be expecting their dossiers to review. So it is not that you are stuck to Student V. So far as the product have been pre-qualified and then meet the requirements of the FDA, then they will undergo that process. So basically, that's what has been done by Ghana.
Now, can you tell us? It's my understanding that the Russians actually offered this vaccine to us some time back, but we didn't. We didn't give it emergency use back then. Why is that?
No, so if you look at the Russians, they started using it after the level 2. So mostly you try and go for a vaccine after it has gone through stage 3 of the clinical trial. So the clinical trial was ended somewhere in November, December. And I think just a few days ago that it was actually reviewed by Lancet, which is a very high level peer review journal. So it is not that Ghana decided not to look at it. As at that time, it was at stage 2 of the clinical trial. So we just had level 3 a few weeks ago. And then, based on the assessment from our technical group, it falls into our line of vaccine candidates that we have to consider.
Right. Please stay with us because Dr. Yabedi-Akom of WACBIP is on the other line. Dr. Bedi-Akom, what can you tell us specifically about Sputnik V and how it compares to other vaccines out there, especially AstraZeneca, which is the other one we've approved for emergency use?
All right. So I think actually it's Sputnik 5. It's V in Roman numerals, but I guess we can call it whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, Sputnik 5. That's what I thought. Yeah.
But so yes, Sputnik is in many ways actually, in terms of its composition, it's very similar. It's more similar to the AstraZeneca vaccine than any of the others. Because it's based off of very similar technology. It uses an adenoviral vector to basically present proteins from the SARS-CoV-2 virus to the immune system. So it's in terms of, if you think of it, sort of the immunology or the biology of the vaccine, it's very similar to AstraZeneca. In terms of efficacy, as Dr. Asiedu-Bekwai said, the publication that has come out in the Lancet describing the phase 3 clinical trial suggests that it has over 90% efficacy, which is actually somewhat, to be honest, a little bit higher than what was reported for AstraZeneca. But they are all, they are all within a similar realm. Sort of, you can think of it as a similar confidence interval or a standard error of each other. So they are all, both AstraZeneca and Sputnik have been demonstrated to be very effective. Sputnik is actually the first vaccine that was sort of registered, although it has taken a while to sort of run the trial. So Russia, as Dr. Asiedu-Bekwai said, decided that they would start using it before they finished the phase 3. Ghana, understandably, I think it makes sense to wait. Typically, you don't want to really license a vaccine till it's gone through all 3 stages. So there is a bit more information about AstraZeneca. The trials have been, a little, we've seen a little bit more data describing AstraZeneca. They did the trials in a number of different places, including in South Africa. And so we've been able to evaluate that data. The Sputnik 5 data is newer, but the data that I have seen suggests that it does appear to be safe and it does appear to be effective. And actually, Sputnik 5 has been registered including Ghana now, 31 different countries. The UAE, Argentina, a number of other countries have approved Sputnik 5 for use.
Right.
The US and Europe have not yet. Europe, I think, says that they are evaluating it. But I think we also have to bear in mind that there's geopolitics at play, right? Is America really going to approve a Russian vaccine? It may not have nothing to do with how good the vaccine is. It may just be it Russia versus America. America has their own vaccines, Russia has theirs.
Yeah.
So from a purely scientific perspective, I think AstraZeneca and Sputnik 5, from the data that is available, appear to be quite comparable. As I said, the science underpinning each vaccine is actually very, very similar. And it is, I believe it is up to, the Ghana FDA to evaluate the literature that is available to them to decide, as they have done, that they believe Sputnik 5 is something that can be used in Ghana.
Okay.
I would add that, we face a challenge, and I think Dr. Asiedu Bekwai may speak to this. We face a challenge with getting enough vaccine into this country. We cannot necessarily limit ourselves to a single supplier. So if we find a vaccine that we deem to be safe, regardless of where it's necessarily coming from, I think we have to be open to consider it, because speed is really of the essence right now. We have to get enough vaccine in the country to vaccinate as many people as possible.
Right. Now, you mentioned that, like many other vaccines, Sputnik 5 uses the adenoviruses. It introduces the adenovirus into your system, and that stimulates your immune system to protect you. But reading about Sputnik 5, it appears that the two doses contain two different adenoviruses. Does that actually make it better, as in more efficacious?
Possibly. The reason they've done that, so the AstraZeneca one uses the same adenovirus twice.
Yes.
The problem with that is that after you've been exposed to it, you're not just building immunity against SARS-CoV-2, which is being the protein of SARS-CoV-2, which is being expressed by that adenovirus, but you also build up some immunity to the adenovirus itself, right? Now, this is a harmless. If people are hearing, they're introducing a virus into your system, this is a harmless virus, but your immune system will still recognize it. So when you get your second dose, there is evidence that your immune system clears the vaccine very, very quickly before it can really do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
The reason the Russians chose a different one was they were trying to get around that problem. So they give you one adenovirus that introduces SARS-CoV-2 protein and begins to boost your immune system. With the booster shot, they give you a different adenovirus that is expressing the same SARS-CoV-2 protein. But because it's a different adenovirus, your immune system doesn't quite recognize it. And so the vaccine, I should say, would stay around long enough to do what it's supposed to do. So that is the science. There are different approaches. Of course, the AstraZeneca one, they are trying to introduce different things. They feel that even though it's the same virus twice, you still get enough of a boost. The Russians took a different approach by giving two different to try to avoid the issue of the vaccine being cleared by the immune system before it can take effect.
Right.
So that is the rationale.
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Asiedu Bekwai, we know that a lot of the pharmaceutical companies producing vaccines have insisted on an indemnity clause that nations are supposed to sign before they sell to them. The idea being that if anything goes wrong, bearing in mind that this was produced in a very short period of time in an emergency situation, if anything goes wrong with the administration of that vaccine in a population, the nation cannot hold that the manufacturer legally liable for anything that goes wrong. Is such a deal in place with the Russians as well, bearing in mind that they produced their vaccine nationally? It was the nation of Russia that produced it, not a private pharmaceutical company.
Thank you very much. So Ghana has signed the indemnity clause for the COVAX facility. If you look at the Sputnik, it is not part of COVAX facility. So Ghana is yet to sign that that arrangement with the present government. Apparently, if you look at the ministry or the president, he wants us to be dealing directly with the stores. So, in terms of like AstraZeneca, we actually signed a contract with the Serum Institute of India for Sputnik 5 or B, as we talked about. We are yet to get that arrangement done. As I said, we had the signing or the approval done a few days ago, and the government is going to engage the Russia government in that perspective. But as was said by Miao, we are not limiting ourselves to particular vaccines. If you want 40 million doses, then you need to up your game, either treat more COVID rooms or making sure that you get available vaccines. So we are not restricted in terms of the kind of vaccine. So far as the state, the cost is not an issue for us to get the 40 million doses.
Are there any hidden advantages of the fact that on this occasion we are buying from a nation rather than a pharmaceutical company in terms of price and perhaps even diplomatic arrangements to get more or get them quicker? Are those options available to us?
Well, I think that if you look at the Sputnik 5 or V, it's from the Gamaleya Research Institute, which is under the Ministry of Health. So it's directly a government entity. The other products are private oriented. So I don't think it's much of a difference. The issue is we are trying to go to the source of production so that I have that government to source arrangement. So that is the issue. In terms of the cost, I think that the Sputnik V appears more expensive than AstraZeneca.
Yeah.
I think it's more than about $10 per dose, whereby the AstraZeneca is about $4 per dose.
Yeah. So how much are we buying and when is it arriving?
I think that there's an initial agreement of about 10 million doses. We are yet to come to when it's coming. There are a bit of, I think legal issues to go around it, and then we can be certain when to get it in the country.
So we don't know when as yet.
What I can talk about is the AstraZeneca. The initial ones will come this week. But for this Sputnik, I don't have a lot of information about when it's coming. All I know is that Ghana has been earmarked 10 million doses.
Now, the African Union also has a deal with Russia for these vaccines. And in that deal, it says something about a financial package. Do you know what that is? And is Ghana going for that as well?
Yes, I think that the African Union has a number of arrangements. There's a part which is gratis or is free. Then there's a part which you need to pay for it. So there's a amount of vaccines that exist in that country have to buy. So it's not restricted to Sputnik or Pfizer or AstraZeneca. So they make available a number of vaccines to countries, and based on your population size, then you can have access. I think that the AU has earmarked about 6 million doses by that arrangement for Ghana.
Right. Okay, I was asking about the financial package. Do we know what that is?
I think the average, they are looking about $7 per dose. But as I said, it varies from vaccine to vaccine. So they are using an average estimate cost. So that is the information that I have for it.
Okay. Dr. Bediako, so let's look at how prepared we are as a nation for this. This is a vaccine that will not have to be frozen, to the degrees of the Pfizer vaccine. You can just refrigerate it and it should be fine. But how prepared are we for the rollout as a nation? How do you assess our education so far? Bearing in mind that we are getting some vaccines this week. How prepared do you think we are to effectively distribute vaccines in Ghana?
I think there's a good plan in place. What I've seen of the plan, it appears to be very comprehensive. and is trying to reach different segments of the population. Of course, in terms of rollout, because if we were to receive all 40 million today, I think we would struggle considerably to try to deploy everything because of just the sheer manpower that it would require. But we are getting, fortunately or unfortunately, we are going to get our vaccines in a bit of a trickle. So I believe that the Ghana Health Service has announced a segmentation plan where they are going to initially target hotspots and target certain individuals within those hotspots. I think we are well prepared to begin that process. The concern I have is that we are, in a way, we have experience doing vaccination. I think we are very good at mass vaccinations in this country, but we are doing a few things that are new. We are going completely electronic to track the vaccine. We are going to employ certain new software, new technology that we perhaps have not used before. And so we just hope that those things will go off smoothly. In terms of the cold chain, yes, the vaccines we are rolling out initially do not require the cryo temperatures, the -70s, but they still do require some refrigeration. And so you have to bear in mind that refrigeration requires electricity. And so it's just the hope is that in more remote areas, as we begin to roll out of the metropolitan areas where we will start, in more remote areas, there needs to be provision for generator facilities and other things, so that once vaccines are delivered, they cannot all be distributed immediately. So once they are delivered, if they are going to be stored for a week or 2 weeks, then you need to make sure you have generator backup so that you don't waste vaccine by it going off. But I think the plan I have seen, I must give Ghana Health Service credit. It is a well laid out plan. It is clearly thought out. But as with all things, plans are great, but it's all about the implementation. So we wait to see. But I hope that government will make the resources available to the Ghana Health Service to allow them to implement. But then also, you asked about education. I mean, this is how we have to start now, right? In some ways, we are behind getting vaccines. The rest of the world has been vaccinating for several weeks. 200 million people, 200 million doses or more have been given out, and we are yet to give out our first dose. So the education campaign has to ramp up, and Ghanaian citizens have to realize the urgency of this situation, and have to, we have to fight the misinformation that may drive vaccine hesitancy. So I think that is where we need to turn our attention. The plan is there. I believe it can be rolled out, but now we have to, the information now has to be ramped up, and we have to think about how we will cut through a lot of the noise that currently exists to get as many Ghanaians as possible to sign up for the vaccine.
Yes, quick question to you, Dr. Asiede Bekwing. So, how many doses are we expecting this week?
I think a little less than 500,000 are coming this week.
500,000?
Yes, that's the first. But if you look at the COVAX facility, Ghana is supposed to get 6 million. And then for initial start, we are getting 2.4 million. So this is the first batch of the 2.4 million which is coming. And it's purely the AstraZeneca, which fits into our existing cold chain.
And with this 500,000 that is coming this week, when are we thinking of starting the vaccinations?
We hope to start the first week of March. So apparently, because it's vaccines that are part of our cold chain, we don't have a lot of challenges to roll it out. So the plan is the first week of March, we get people vaccinated. And as was said by Yao, there's a segmented population who's going to be focused. So
and what constitutes that segmented population?
So one is that we look at the geography. So where is the disease more prevalent? So it's like Accra, in Kumasi, and possibly Western region. So those are the areas going to focus. Then who are the people at high risk of getting infected, or people who actually have access to actually carry the country? So we are looking at health workers. We are looking at people with underlying conditions. We are looking at people over 50 years. And then the arms of government to essential workers. So those are the segmented population that we want to start for now.
And since we're expecting 500,000, so we're looking at vaccinating 250,000. If I take it that each person would need 2 doses, right?
No, what we want to do is, now if you look at the current regimen, they are saying that you don't give less than 3 weeks. So you can give between 8 to 12 weeks. So for our initial allocation, we're going to give all out minus the wasted factor of 5%. So in that case, we are going to vaccinate more than 400,000 people. And then get the others to add on.
Now, since we're talking about vaccinating more than 400,000, leaving 5%, that would mean we're expecting the others to come in time so that we don't miss out. When are we expecting the others to get into the country?
By first, second week of March. I mean, let me say that there's a lot of engagement going on, actually spearheaded by the president himself. I mean, so hopefully, first week in March, second week in March, we start getting the others. And then, as I said, the COVAX facility has actually earmarked 2.12 million doses for us that we are getting at 500. So we know that within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we'll get the others to add on.
Right. I'd like to ask this final question to Dr. Bediako. I don't mind if Dr. Asidu Bekwin chips in as well, but we've got just a few minutes to wrap up. And what I have on my mind is this. The clock is ticking. There is a time factor to this thing. As the virus continues to mutate, we might find ourselves in a situation where whatever vaccine we have is not as efficacious against the prevailing virus as it should be. Are we factoring these calculations in, and are we on schedule as a nation to ensure that if we roll out the vaccines according to the timetable we have currently, that we will indeed provide immunity for our population? Dr. Bediako first.
I think the schedule is fine. As Dr. Asidu Bekwin has mentioned, the problem we're going to have is supply. So, what concerns me is how we can't really guarantee when the vaccines will enter the country. We are getting the first 500,000. The hope is that the others will come, and we have to hope that the bilateral and other agreements that are being struck will ensure that we will get access to the vaccine. That is the biggest threat we have. I think there are 2 threats, if I'll say it quickly. The first threat is access to the vaccine in time, which is sort of outside of our control. The second problem is vaccine hesitancy. If the vaccine is here and we don't get enough people signing up, then we risk, as you said, losing the race. Because if we take too long, not only does it drag on so long that potentially the immunity window is passed, but then also the virus obviously has opportunity to mutate and evade the vaccine. So I think the true challenges that concern me is vaccine supply, which is not necessarily always going to be in the control of our government. And secondly, vaccine hesitancy, which is purely in the control of the Ghanaian people.
Right.
So I think we have to at least eliminate the second one.
Right.
And then hope and pray that we can get access to adequate quantities of vaccine in time. And we have to remember, if it's also about the types of vaccine. You cannot necessarily mix and match. So if you get 1 dose of AstraZeneca, you have to get a second dose of AstraZeneca. If you get 1 dose of Sputnik, you have to get the second dose of Sputnik.
Yeah.
And so that creates that kind of logistical, potential for logistical problems. But hopefully we will be able to sort that out.
Thank you very much. Finally, Dr. Asidu Bekwin, in 30 seconds, what is our plan B? If any of our timelines slip, if any of our supplies are delayed, what's plan B?
No, so basically, as was said by focusing on the hesitancy, we are deploying the Ministry of Health Canal Service, NCCE, and the Ministry of Information to be the main drivers to get the average Ghanaian sensitized to buy into the use of the vaccines. So basically, that is our main drive. In terms of trying to get the access to the vaccines, all effort being put in place, particularly it is being led by the president himself.
Right.
And hopefully we'll get the reasonable numbers in time.
Okay. I want to thank you very much, both of you, for your time with us, Dr. Bediako and Dr. Asiedu Bequin. Very, very enlightening. We appreciate it. Right now, we say thank you to all of you who joined us for this Monday morning edition of the Super Morning Show. On behalf of Winston and the rest of the team, I say thank you so much. Let's do it again tomorrow. Right now, though, I'm handing you over safely to the Supreme Court, where the election petition continues. The next voice you hear belongs to Chachu Chikata.
On that day,